It's the Middle-aged Bodcast. Getting older, but having some laughs.
Well, welcome to the Middle-aged Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And T.A., when we discussed recording a soap special, we quickly realised that we needed someone who truly knows all about the soaps. Our guest for the Middle-aged Bodcast 50th episode has appeared in not one, but two iconic British soaps, winning 3 British Soap Awards. For the 30th anniversary of Hollyoaks this month, we are delighted to be joined today by British soap royalty. On screen, she's Clare Devine, but we're delighted to say welcome to the podcast, Gemma Bissix.
Hello. That was an introduction and a half. I loved it.
Thank you very much. There's some work went into that, weren't there, Rich?
It made me sound like kind of important.
You have to get your intros good. It's important, isn't it, Rich?
Yeah.
Doing this kind of thing.
You are the iconic villain of Hollyoaks. You are sort of the number one villainous character, I think, from that show.
Yeah, she's pretty hardcore. She's died twice and come back from the dead. I mean, that is some sort of superpower, isn't it? I don't know how many locked it. Is it 9 lives like a cat? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Well, we'll probably come on to that a little bit more. But to begin with, we sort of wanted to go back a bit, really. And sort of, so you were just 9 when you joined EastEnders in 1993 as Claire Tyler, later Claire Bates. And you had no formal acting training, I read. So how did the role come about? And what was it like stepping into such an iconic show and suddenly being in the public eye at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, at the age of 9, I think it's kind of, at the time, I was so young that I didn't really know the sort of, how big it was. And you kind of went with the flow. I mean, when I look back now and I think, my goodness, my children are 8 and 9, and whether they could go through that now, it's quite of a strange experience. But I was just at a drama school, one day a week, so like a after school activity. So nothing even that serious, just locally. And they had an agency attached to it. And this audition came up for EastEnders, and it was supposed to be 3 episodes. And I got the part because I was a 9-year-old that could manage a script, and I looked like Nicola Duffer, who played my mother. You know, my mum's a hairdresser, my dad's an electrician. I don't come from any kind of starry background. And that was it. And that is literally what has carved my career till now. Up till then, I wanted to be a vet. Up till when I was 9 years old. And then, it turned into 6 years. 6 years on one of the biggest soaps when there was only, back then, 4 channels. You know, there was no Channel 5 or anything like that. So the amount of people that watched it was insane.
Oh, of course, yeah. It was quite a big thing as well, wasn't it? Because Hollyoaks started, but it was kind of still in its early days, wasn't it? And so you had, I think Brookside was still on the air as well at the time. And like you said, there was only the 4 channels. It was pretty much Corrie and EastEnders all the way, wasn't it, with the soaps at the time? And
I remember going on set for the first day. It was on a location shoot. My dad took me on the back of his motorbike. And I remember him thinking it was so, so cool. But then I think it was my 2nd day or 3rd day that I actually went to the studios. And that was nerve-wracking. Because, when we've got, even as a young child, we watch these shows and we know the people. And I remember finding Steve McFadden plays Phil. I remember seeing him in the canteen being really nervous. But actually, he came straight up to me, sat on my table with me and my mum, and showed me through some scripts and stuff and pointed out where his dressing room was and said, if you ever need any help or anything like that, then always come to me. And he helped me go through my lines at a young age. It was very much a family there from the off, and I think they sort of look after their own, which was lovely, because I think Steve McFadden was probably the most daunting character, quite scary, isn't he? A bit like Clare Devine now, the sort of evil gangster. So the fact that he put me under his wing made it a lot easier.
So you left EastEnders then in sort of 98 and then returned 10 years later. And in between, you joined Hollyoaks as Clare Devine, a role you've come back to sort of several times over the years, obviously most recently for the 30th anniversary. Looking back, how do you reflect on your career across the 2 shows?
I would say that with EastEnders, for me, that was like, because I didn't do drama school as such. That was my education into the industry, and absolutely loved that. But it's sort of, like you say, it was finished in 1998. And then within the acting industry, it's very difficult to sort of put yourself out there. Everybody thinks that, once you're an actress, you can just choose that job or choose this. And it took a little while for myself to grow into an adult. And then I got Hollyoaks at the age of 23. And that was the part of Clare Devine was just something, I mean, the stuff that she's done, she should either be on death row or be in prison. So it's like playing dress up for a living, and it's just so much fun. But when you've got the jobs, sometimes there are difficult periods in between. But I was a trained electrician. I used to run a pub, and I think that you've just got to keep yourself humble, because I loved obviously the shows that I do, but sometimes it's the downtime which I think that people forget, because everybody, when I was at school or anything, people always just think, they think you should be living in a mansion. Even the girls now, it's so funny. They would say, I'm going back to Hollyoaks. Juliet said, well, are we going to live in a mansion soon, mummy? They don't realise that we are just normal people just doing a normal job.
I'm just trying to imagine for a second there, you said you're obviously a trained electrician and, you're obviously running a bar or whatever. That must be like really strange. Like if you go and you do something and somebody goes, hang on a second, weren't you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I read once that Harrison Ford, I think, was a trained carpenter, and his brother or brother-in-law asked for some help on a job, and he just went and helped. And this guy said, I came home from work and there's Harrison Ford working on my house. It's such a strange thing. But like you say, you've got to keep doing what you've got to do in between time. And as you say, obviously acting and show businesses can be a difficult industry kind of in that sense. But yeah, so when you took over the Clare Devine role as such, the character shifted from being very likable to one of Hollyoaks' biggest villains. And you went on to win Best Villain at the British Soap Awards in 2007. What was it like stepping into such a dark role, and how did you find the challenge of playing the villain?
Well, I think this is the thing. I mean, it was actually really, really easy. And I don't know if that says anything about my actual personality or not. But I think I'm such a positive person, and I've always been that kind of, I see the best in everything. But I think, and then there obviously has got to be a little bit of a dark side somewhere. So I think that being Clare Devine is like my therapy. So, because I'm always like bubbly and stuff like that, it's like, I think that those times maybe when you were at school and, when you wanted to do, like somebody was mean to you or something, and you sort of lay in bed at night and you think, oh, I wish I'd have said that to them, or I wish I'd have done that. Claire for me is like all of those things molded into one. So when, I get to play a really bad character on screen, so then it keeps me nice in real life. So I think it was a lot easier than people imagine. I really enjoy it. I mean, I can't say, a bit of teenage trafficking, a bit of drug dealing, a bit of murder. I don't know what that says about my personality, but I love it.
It's so crazy when you sort of look back to it, because obviously you were the second actress to play Claire.
Yes.
And I've read the original actress didn't want to play the villain or something like that. Is that true?
Yeah, and she was also a model from Model Behaviour. So back in those days in Hollyoaks, there was a lot of things where they were employing sort of models, because it was more about what the people looked like on the show. So I think, didn't want to be the villain. So when I got the part, I went for the audition. To be fair, I didn't know that I was going to be the villain either. I just got told I was going up for a part called Fiona. And then when I got the part, they said, well, actually, no, it's a recast. But the girl's on set now filming. She's leaving and you're going into her role. So one episode, she went up to bed upstairs. And the next morning, I came down to a completely different actress. So it was like, I know it's just quite funny when you think of Max and OB seeing just a strange woman coming back down, and you'd think they'd say, well, who are you? They had to be, I was the same person. It's like Home and Away. I think, didn't Pippa go into the fridge once and then close it? and I look in to get some milk and then close the door, and it was a completely different woman.
I think some roles have had 3 different actors play them as well, haven't they, on certain things? So it does happen quite a lot, but it is always quite funny when that sort of happens.
And you wonder why it's quite a risk for like producers and stuff to do that. But then when you see the success of Claire in 2006, 2007 and winning the award, they obviously knew they were onto something good. They obviously knew that that's where they wanted the show to go. They wanted the character to go. And actually, after a few weeks, the audience kind of just accept that's who you are and kind of forget where it sort of came from and just roll with it, really, don't they?
I think sometimes as well, they do it at a time, especially if someone's kind of come through as a child actor and then they get to the adult and they want to change that character and they separate it. I think they did it a lot with, was it Nick Platt? I think Coronation Street. I think he's changed about 3 times. And you had the original actor from a child and then they really changed it and brought, was it Adam Rickett? And they just took it in a completely different direction that they, I guess, didn't feel would work with the original actors.
A lot of children actors don't necessarily want to be actors as they grow up. So a lot of that's what I found. I mean, myself, I was the opposite. I carried on acting and wanted to, but a lot of kids that do it as children and then they go into adults, they choose that's not the path that they want to do. So then obviously if they want to keep the character, then they have to recast, don't they?
It was genius recasting Claire, and what a role for you to take on as well. And I do remember sort of that time period, all the stuff with poor little Tom.
He was only 6 years old when I started bullying him. I mean, it's when you watch some of the clips that have gone on, there's one on the YouTube, the Hollyoaks YouTube about, is a clip of me watching the scenes I did with Ellis when he was little. And I mean, you wouldn't get away with saying stuff like that. You're the reason that your mum and dad died. You have germs and you're spreading those germs, Tom, so everybody that you love and everybody that comes close to you, you're making them die. You're saying that to a 6-year-old. I don't even think you'd be allowed to say that on television nowadays.
No, and it's the one when Claire's trying to bump off Max, and OB goes to rescue him and like trying to drown him, and OB just punches her in the face, and going, you would not be able to do, like, even though Claire is the character everyone loves to hate, you just would not be able to do that at all now, would you?
I remember that was a Christmas Day episode and I was round my dad. So it's all of my family. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. And I remember watching it on Christmas Day. We were all watching it together. And when OB punched Claire, the whole house erupted going, yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm looking around going, I've just been punched in the face, guys. And also it's a male hitting a woman. And it was so celebrated at that time. But then that just shows really, how invested people were in the Claire storyline and how vile she was, to the fact that everybody was absolutely ecstatic that she just got knocked out by a bloke. It was brilliant.
I mean, to the point where villains really stick in people's minds, and we've all read different stories about how that's sometimes played out for actors when they've been out and about people's lack of being able to disassociate an actor and a character. And doing some of the research for this, I read that you once had a particularly strange encounter in a Sainsbury's, where a member of staff apparently refused to serve you. Can you tell us about that?
It was the deli counter. So, when you get like sliced ham or cheese or whatever within Sainsbury's. And I was there just trying to, just ordering something or other. And this woman said to me, I'm not serving you. And I was like, she said, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I was like, what? I didn't really understand what happened. And then it tweaked. And she actually called security and tried to get me escorted out of the shop, because she thought that I was, that I should be ashamed of myself and I should be made an example of. And soon enough, you'll get your comeuppance. Soon enough, you'll get caught or you'll be behind bars. I'm like, oh my God. Imagine going out. It's not much makeup on, just going out, just trying to get your cheese and ham for cheese board later on. And get. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. So I remember having fan mail, and there was a guy that used to write to me from prison saying he wanted me to be his accomplice. We wanted to be my accomplice, sorry. And then there was another vicar or a priest, and he would write to me he was religiously every month, saying that you can repent your sins. It's not too late. If you come to me, we can do this. And I'm just thinking to myself, where do these people get it from? I'm given a script and I'm just acting, but that's how believable it was, I suppose.
I suppose it's like the episode of Friends, isn't it, when Joey dates that girl and she thinks that he's Dr. Drake Ramore from Days of Our Lives, and she's watching him on TV and watching him on the thing, and they go, oh, this is his evil twin brother, and all of this, just to try and. It is mad how people kind of see it.
When you're in people's living rooms all the time, people then think they know the people, I guess. It becomes a little bit like that.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like, I take it as a compliment because, to be fair, I mean, it wasn't very nice having to be thrown out of Sainsbury's. It was quite embarrassing, to be honest. But apart from that, you think, well, actually, if you're inciting this kind of hatred or this kind of, like, belief in people, then you're obviously doing the right job, aren't you?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's kind of almost a testimony to your work then.
Otherwise, I'd be sitting in a corner in a straitjacket, rocking backward and forward, wouldn't I? So, no one likes me.
It just shows how great a job that you do with the character as well, though, doesn't it? Like we say, and the idea of the character is she's supposed to be hated.
Yeah.
And if it were the other way around, it'd kind of be, why is that happening? Why are people finding her quite... She's popular for the right reasons in that she's so evil. People want to see her get her comeuppance rather than they want to see what she's going to do next and see it keep escalating.
And I think it was a different kind of time then, because obviously 2006, 2007, we didn't really have so much social media. Whereas now, people aren't, you've got my page that's on Instagram, for instance, and you can see the time I spend with my family and the silly videos that I put up and things like that. So I think that you can become, back then, people only knew you from what they saw you on the television. They couldn't really see the difference. You see what I mean? So I think it's obviously now with actors and stuff, you can definitely get more of an insight into their real life. So that sort of stuff doesn't happen as much anymore. because people are a little bit more aware. Obviously, if they're quite a fan of you, then they would look at your Instagram and then realise that, oh yeah, she, she's quite nice. Oh my goodness. Otherwise, I'd be reported to social services for having children, wouldn't I? That wouldn't go down well, would it?
It's good that there's that sort of insight into people's lives, just that little bit of humanity to sort of show a difference then between you and between Claire. And then at least you can then say to someone in Sainsbury's, look, it's not really me. This is the real me.
Yeah. Look at this. Get on my Instagram. Follow my Instagram. See, I'm not real, I promise. Or like, I know, it's like your calling card to the security. Don't throw me out. Please don't put me in jail. It's not real.
It's like if you actually got sort of your bank card or credit card out and said, look, this is who I really am. I mean, I'm not trusting you. That's probably a fake, knowing what you do and that.
I'm trying to go abroad with my own children. And it's like, I don't think you've got fake passports and trying to steal your own kids.
This is our soap special episode. And
yeah.
This year it's been packed with some quite big anniversaries for the soaps, with Hollyoaks turning 30, EastEnders and Neighbours both having their 40th anniversary this year as well. And Coronation Street is actually 65 this year. They may do a little celebration or something for it, but I suppose they're waiting for the 70th, I guess.
I don't know. I think it's December as well, isn't it? So whether they will do anything in the run up to Christmas, I don't know.
And I suppose because EastEnders have had a big 40th, Hollyoaks have got the big 30th, maybe like you say, they're waiting for the 70th rather than trying to compete with that. Because I mean, the EastEnders stuff at the beginning of this year was absolutely brilliant. The live episode with the Vic and stuff, and just and Martin Fowler, dying, and it was so amazing the way that they managed to keep that secret. Because there's so many spoilers and stuff out there at the moment that it's so cool when the old soap that we used to watch, you'd get that. Things would just shock you, just be like, that was what was amazing about soap. It would end and you just couldn't wait for the next episode the next day. But obviously when there's so many spoilers now that you don't really get that effect. And I think that EastEnders did that amazingly at the beginning of the year because no one expected Martin to die. Everybody thought it was going to be Sonia, or because you heard that Natalie Cassidy was leaving. And I think they're quite good now putting out red herrings because the reaction on social media, like people were absolutely devastated. Like Martin Fowler it was like they'd lost their own child or their beloved dog, or it was just, everybody was just completely devastated. But I just thought the acting in that and the way that they did it all was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Steve McFadden, what an amazing actor. He just got that NTA last week. So well deserved. And he's so well liked by everybody. And, it's incredible. Incredible what they did this year. So hopefully Hollyoaks can do the same. We've got some amazing things coming up for the 30th. So it's all through October. We've got the crossover with Brookside, which is such a great piece of nostalgia for I think there's about sort of 500,000 or more people that still watch old episodes of Brookside. I think that's what I was thinking. It was like 500,000 to 600,000 people still now watching those old episodes. So, and then obviously think about all the fans that had. I mean, hopefully Hollyoaks is going to gain sort of an older generation of fans watching that crossover episode, which has been fantastic.
When on that note, obviously with all these big anniversaries and the fact, as you say, people are still watching some of the old reruns and all the rest of it, what do you think it is about soaps that keeps the audiences coming back?
I think it's the continuing drama. Because, when we watch all these things on Netflix and stuff, it's like, I think it's the fact that it never really ends. So it feels like real life. So obviously when you've got like a 6-part drama series, it's nice to watch something like that because you've got a beginning, a middle and an end and you get your conclusion at the end of it. But I think the best thing about soaps is that it's like real life because real life never ends, does it? Real life is continuous and that's why it's called a continuing drama. So even when you go back to the old ones, even that just creates a bit of nostalgia. I mean, with the EastEnders 40th, I remember looking through loads of things and seeing myself on bits that are on YouTube and things when I'm like 9, 10, 11 years old. And the memories there as a block. But actually, when I'm watching them back, it's like, oh my God, it just ignited this feeling of nostalgia. It's like, oh my God, I remember standing there and filming that. But actually, if I hadn't seen it, that wouldn't be something that was in my memory. So I think a lot of people will watch it, even if they've watched it back in the day. And it reminds them of a time, maybe when they felt a bit younger, when it reminds them of a relationship they were in, or when they first had their children, or everything you can kind of relate to something in your own life. And I think, and also the fact that a lot of them are quite depressing and, a lot of bad things happen. It makes people feel like their lives aren't too bad. Especially if you lived in a soap opera, you'd probably had like 4 attempted murders. You'd have 7 kids taken away and your husband would have had an affair with 12 women around the square. Do you know what I mean? So life isn't that bad.
It's quite strange looking back though, especially as having been, a child actor and then acting as an actor. Do you find it weird looking back at yourself on screen?
I do. I wish that, I think at the time I used to feel quite nervous. It's like when you're younger, sort of having a bit more self-doubt about yourself. When I watch back, sometimes I used to think that I wasn't, like, not saying I wasn't a great actress, but I would think to myself, I get embarrassed watching that, or thinking, that was a bit cringe. And now I watch it now at my 11, 12-year-old self, and I think, oh my God, you were bloody good. And it's nice to be able to go back there and realise and have those things, because obviously I think it's like, I'm 42 now. So it's like, you look at yourself in the mirror and you just think, I wish I could tell my 16-year-old self what an amazing figure I had when your skin was a little bit tighter around your face and that sort of stuff, and be able just to go back and go, God, we need to appreciate ourselves for what we are at the time and in the present. And I think I'm sort of channeling that a little bit more now as getting into my 40s and finding myself to be a bit more confident and just accepting it, because God, life is so short. And when you watch things, like you say, the old episodes and stuff, you just think, where did that time go? Still feel exactly the same now.
I think that's kind of played almost into a little bit of the theme of the Middle-aged Bodcast, really. That's been a running thing for us, obviously, through many of our episodes, and with guests is talking very much about that, in terms of, we're obviously of the same sort of age as yourself. We're both 43, but it is interesting when you start thinking about it like that. Ahead of the 40th anniversary of EastEnders, Ross Kemp said that EastEnders had a huge impact on society by tackling taboo subjects and raising awareness. What are your reflections on how EastEnders and Hollyoaks, all the other soaps, have sort of educated as well as entertained viewers? And are there any storylines that you're especially proud of?
I think within lots of areas, that's what they do. They create these taboo subjects. The first sort of like gay partnerships, they're thinking about like adoption, rape storylines, all of things that, are so taboo, things with disabilities. And I think what it does is just raise awareness to people that do feel alone. I think, like, again, before social media and stuff, now there's a lot of like channels and platforms to reach out, podcasts like yourselves, where it's very relatable and it brings people together. But especially back in the day before social media, I think soap was that outlet to open discussions. So if somebody was going through something, instead of wanting to complain or feeling like they couldn't talk about it, if a subject was then played out onto a soap opera, it opened up a conversation for people at the school gates or on a night out or something like that. And I think that's what's amazing. It's like the taboo subjects that we almost feel like we shouldn't talk about, I think are important. I think that's what soaps do so well. They look at what is relevant. They look at what needs to be highlighted. And a lot of the soaps now, when they do these storylines, they go with charities. So if it's like a domestic abuse storyline, they will work with a domestic abuse charity to work out what it is and what is the message that they want to be able to portray to everybody and make people feel more inclusive. And I think that is massively what soap does. Like that previous question, it makes us all feel it's all relatable. And it makes us all feel like that's, as much as stuff isn't normal, it makes it feel like, well, no, but it doesn't matter. What is normal? We're all different. There's so many things that can happen. And it just opens up discussions, which I think is brilliant. I think that's the magic of soap.
You mentioned as well where the working with the charities that the soaps do as well. And I think the fact that they do that, and then at the end of the episode, there'll be a reference to that charity and the resources that are available. It's really good that then it gives the viewers, if they are affected by anything on the show, they have that sort of link to those resources so they can go and sort of get advice and any further information that they want as well.
Yeah, and I think because they're all continuing dramas and there's, obviously more than one soap opera, most of the subjects have been covered, which then, like I said, again, will, makes people feel less alone, which even if it saves a life, somebody feeling that they're alone and suicidal thoughts or anything like that, when you're watching something and you realize, it's not just me, and look, you can come out the other end. I mean, sometimes obviously it always have a happy ending, but at least it opens up a topic for discussion.
There is one thing I did want to ask you, because it's such a shame they killed him off after you'd left the show. Is there any way they can bring Max back? Is there any logical way we can bring him back from the dead to have a final showdown with Claire?
I know. Well, I tell you what, there is a showdown coming on screen in a couple of weeks with Claire and Tom, which is great because, Tom Ellis is like 27 years old now. And obviously he gets to have quite a good go at Claire. We've done some brilliant scenes together, me and Ellis. But I know I would love to work with Matt Littler again. It was like one of my best times working with him. It's really strange. I was saying this to somebody else the other day, because obviously my character's been brought back from the dead like twice. They never bring nice characters back from the dead. It's always the evil ones. It's always the baddies. And I don't know what that is, if it's like if there's a rule that you can't like give false hope. Do you see what I mean? Because if somebody has got a loved one and loses them in real life, you know, unfortunately that doesn't happen. People don't come back from the dead. But it's like the evil ones, it's all right if they get brought back from the dead because nobody really wants them anyway. But I would love to, but I don't think so. I think with the nice characters in Soapland, once you're done, unfortunately.
I think that is the way, isn't it? It's a shame. They ought to tip it the other way one time. Just do it as a one-off for the big anniversaries. Do something, even if he was there just like in Tom's head and he's got him like spurring him on. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, maybe, or Claire dies finally, and then Claire and Max have a showdown in hell, or in between hell and heaven.
That could be it. That'd be amazing.
Spin-off, a little spin-off.
What are your sort of favourite storylines or moments as a viewer from any soap?
Oh goodness, that's what is my favourite? I mean, I love all of the classic stuff. I mean, I think that the Slaters when in EastEnders, when back in the day, you know, when it was like Zoe and Kat, and it was like, "You're not my mother." Yes, I am. The way that those kind of things made you feel, you know, at that time was just you can't rewrite those things. I mean, I just loved all the storylines with Hollyoaks, with Claire, when it was just like my favourite storylines I think that I've ever done was the bits that you were saying, being able to go to this lake cabin and you're just slowly poisoning someone. I mean, it's quite enjoyable, actually. I know that sounds really bad. I don't mean that like in real life, but just the drama of it all. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I've like with Coronation Street, I just think that they do it so well. With like the characters, like when Deirdre died and all of that, you know, Jack Duckworth, those kind of days. I just think it's all so good, all of it.
I was really pleased they got Vera back when they killed off Jack Duckworth.
I know, but that's what I think. They do seem to tie up the loose ends, and that's what I love about soap. It's just like there's always something new going on, but then they also still go back and give people the respect of, like you say, the nostalgia, and like you're saying, bringing Vera back with Jack's death and stuff. I just think it's great. And it's exactly what people need. They get that. They get their fill. They've been respected as an audience. And I just think it's great. But I love anything to do like the stunts. And because you don't know, you know, when you realise what goes on behind the scenes to do these kind of stunt things, it's absolutely incredible. We've got some amazing stunts coming for the Hollyoaks 30th. I can't give too much away, but I was involved in quite a lot of that as well. And it's just like, it's like being on a film set. It's just, you know, you literally get to play dress up and run around with your best mates, blowing things up and get paid for it. It's great.
That's fantastic. One of the things we've noticed as well with Hollyoaks is there's been a lot of change with it recently, where it's gone. It used to be on, obviously, for the 5 nights a week on Channel 4, and then it was showing the next episodes on E4, and now it's sort of the E4 episodes are still there, and there's a lot of online features. And it does seem like that's been the way for the show to kind of keep going with the modern day audiences. And I think a lot of other soaps are now trying to play a bit of catch up with Hollyoaks in some respects on that. Thinking of things like Neighbours going streaming and coming back, and but looking at sort of Coronation Street changing their broadcast times, and so are Emmerdale and things like that. There's a lot of competition for the attention from viewers. How do you think soaps can still kind of keep that momentum going and have that place in people's lives like they used to do? What's kind of, do you think, keeping viewers engaged?
Well, since it's gone down to the 3 episodes, we had a meeting with the producer, and we were told that our viewing figures have gone up 30% by going online. And we've also got a completely different revenue now from YouTube. So where people are putting the episodes out on YouTube so people can watch them abroad and here. And I think it's something to do with, like, I mean, please, I mean, if it's a BBC here, don't hold me to it. But, you know, I do think that the TV licensing thing is kind of dwindling out. You know, I think the new generation watch everything online. It's all about Wi-Fi and that sort of access. And I'm quite a dinosaur, you know. Like I said before, it's like we're the same age. I'm not saying you're a dinosaur, by the way. I just meant a dinosaur in the way of, like, I'm quite old fashioned. I'm still quite a pen and paper girl. I just turn it on the TV and watch 1, 2, 3 and 4. But I've had to learn to actually get onto the streaming sites, even on my smart TV now. I'm watching things like online, and the same like on 4Stream to watch Hollyoaks and things. And I think that is where it is more accessible to people that, I think now my sister, how old is she? 28. She's just bought a house with her boyfriend, and they don't have a TV license because they don't need one. They just got streaming all over their television. And I just think the new generation is I think that's where the soaps, if they want to be watched, not just by the old guard that watch them all the time, if they want to get the new, they need to move with the times, and everything is online now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the way it's sort of been going, isn't it?
So if you could join a soap that you've not appeared in, which one would it be, and what kind of character would you like to play?
Well, I've got a theory anyway. I think Clare Bates is Clare Devine from Hollyoaks. I think that there should be a Clare in Coronation Street and a Clare in Emmerdale. And I think if they're doing like a Hollyoaks and Brookside crossover, I think they're doing a Coronation Street Emmerdale crossover next year. I think that Clare, I'm just Clare. Clare is everywhere. And I think she was born in Albert Square. She went away for a bit because she needed to, make some money and stuff, and went to Hollyoaks Village. Now, she would probably end up going back to Albert Square soon to see Nigel, hopefully. And then she needs to just make an appearance on Coronation Street, be the first character to cross over all soaps, but as the same character.
And then surely you'd join it all together. And with, obviously, you used to run a bar as well. So you'd have as Claire then in the Rovers, but you'd then go, get out of my pub.
Absolutely. Stand out the Rovers and be like, do a proper Barbara Windsor and go, get out my pub.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be incredible. I actually had a theory, you saying that about the soaps, because Michelle Collins had left EastEnders, hadn't she, and then went into Corrie. And you could make that work, surely, where you could have that she was in witness protection.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's exactly it.
It would work, I think. You could do something with it. I love the idea of Claire just being in every soap. That would be genius.
That's it. Whenever a soap needs somebody killed off, they just call me up and I get a job. It means I can go into each one. And then she can just, and then she has to run away and go into a different soap just to kind of go undercover again. It's like, when it's like if I committed a murder in London, so I just go and hide out in Emmerdale Farm for a bit once I've killed someone on Albert Square. Perfect. And I've always got a job, so I'm quite happy with that.
There was one thing I noticed as well. We were looking up, and you'd done some audio drama stuff for Doctor Who as well.
Yeah.
Would you do sort of a show like that? Would something like that interest you at all?
Yeah, do you know what? Anything to do with performing. I think I'm not really the sort of person that wants to be I'd want to be an actor. I don't necessarily want to do the sort of, I'm a celebrity. I mean, to be fair, I'm so scared of spiders, I wouldn't. But presenting and stuff like that. But yeah, audio dramas. I love theatre. I've been directing some theatre shows before. I was back in Hollyoaks actually last year. But yeah, the audio things was so much fun. I mean, to be part of the Doctor Who franchise, I've still got some of the actual CDs here from when I originally did it. And it's such a proud moment because that is that franchise is huge. And we did it with Sylvester McCoy, Bonnie Langford. And they're just as fun as performing with your face on screen because you're still having to act, you're still having to feel. And probably a little bit more because you've got to really relay that with just your voice. So, yeah, those challenges are brilliant. I love all audio stuff as well. It's the same way with I'd love to do some animation when you're someone's voice, like the cartoons and things. Because, I mean, how cool is that you get to sort of really be a character? But, yeah, I think they're brilliant. Any form of performing for me.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Just away from soaps, you did take part in Celebrity MasterChef.
I did.
What was that experience like? Cooking's been a bit of a theme of our podcast. Is there a dish you'd recommend we should try making?
Well, when I agreed to do MasterChef, I actually couldn't cook hardly at all. So I got Jamie Oliver cookbook and Gordon Ramsay cookbook, and I cooked a starter, main course, and dessert every day for 3 weeks before I started. And my husband now, I think the only reason he married me is because I'm a really good cook. So, and it's totally down to MasterChef. I had no idea how to cook anything. And the only reason I got out in the quarterfinals was because I curdled my custard, but I hadn't even make out of a tin, let alone making it from scratch. It was lumpy. So there's me with a sieve trying to sieve it through the lumps that I'd made or whatever. But I went to St. James's, which is a restaurant in near Leicester Square somewhere. I'm sure it was Leicester Square area. And I had to do this monkfish wrapped in pancetta. And we got to learn how to roll them up and do it. And I had to do 35 of them in a really intense lunch service. And it was the most amazing experience because it's just all about timing. And my brain's quite mathematical. I think learning lines. I've got a bit of a photographic memory. So once I got that confidence with that, and now I can cook everything. I cook for anybody in everybody. If we have people round, I'll just do a shoulder of lamb and 5 trays of roast potatoes for like 30 people. And that's it. I think it's the only reason I've got children and a husband from MasterChef, because I don't know how to cook.
Brilliant.
That's what we aim to do.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I married my wife was because she could cook. That's terrible. I shouldn't say that.
No. So I've got to have some redeeming qualities, because I talk loads. I'm pretty annoying, and the fact that I can cook is the only reason that you stayed with me, and I'm happy to admit that.
Oh dear, we know what to do now. We need to eat 3-course meals every day. That would be our way of learning to cook. And sort of finally, Gemma, what's sort of the next things that you've got on the horizon? Have you got any plans, sort of either Hollyoaks or anything else that you've got sort of on the horizon?
I'm in Hollyoaks at the moment. I do think that there's probably got to be some kind of expiry date for Claire at some point, even if it just means she goes to prison for a bit, as a bit of a slap on the wrist, and comes back out. But it's like, there's lots of things coming in. I think now that it feels like the industry was quite closed off since COVID. It was quite difficult to get into things and getting auditions and stuff like that. But there's lots of things out there now, and I would love to just get into a bit more drama, feature films, but all of it. I mean, I don't know where Claire's going. I still am convinced that she's going to make an appearance in every single soap. This is what I'm fighting for. I reckon Claire needs to go, and she needs to cause havoc everywhere. But I can't give too much away. I think I've got some exciting plans for the new year, but I can't give too much away, because obviously there's I can't. Just watch this space. You haven't seen the last of Gemma Bissix, I tell you that much.
Fantastic. Good to hear.
Well, I think we're coming towards the end. So obviously, thank you very much for joining us today. But we do have a tradition on this programme, do we not, Rich?
We do. So, Gemma, what we like to do when we have a guest on the podcast is we let them kind of close off the episode. So if there's anything that you want to give, any words of wisdom, or you want to have a shout out for anything, the floor is yours.
Oh my goodness, not a lot of pressure then there, is there? Well, it's the Middle-aged Bodcast soap special episode. So I am Gemma Bissix, play Clare Devine, Claire Bates, and every other Claire in every other soap, hopefully. The only bit I would give, I just think that everybody needs to learn to love themselves, be confident in yourselves, just be able to, when we're talking about being middle-aged, what is middle-aged? Middle-aged is where we come to ourselves, we come to our senses, we realise life is short. So just learning to be able to just be happy, live in the moment, be present, and just be grateful for every year we've got from now on, because we're on the bad side of it now, aren't we?
Brilliant.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gemma. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, guys. It's been great.
One more middle-aged podcast in your life?
Of course you do. Follow us on social media for behind-the-scenes stuff, extra larks, and all our latest updates.
We're on Instagram and Threads at Middle-aged Bodcast.
Facebook's easier. Just head to facebook.com/middle-aged podcast.
If you're still hanging on to Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, we're at Middle-aged Bodcast.
And if you're on Blue Sky, it's at middleagedpodcast.bsky.social.
Or you can swing by our website, middleagedpodcast.co.uk.
Give us a follow and stay in the loop.
Cheers for listening.
Two best mates here to take you to stand. Rachel, Rich and T.A. got your health in the hands. Williams, laughs and tales they tell. For beats and nights to workouts, they're keeping it real.